doing?
Just throwing your empty bottle in the garbage.
Don't you know plastics go in the blue container?
Mayor Frank Jackson and the City of Cleveland are committed to keeping your neighborhood clean and green through the use of the city-issued trash and recycling carts. It's safe, convenient, and mandatory. For more information, contact the Cleveland Division of Waste Collection at 216-664-3717.
How did you get to be so smart?
I had a good teacher.
People always say what a great place Cleveland is. That puts Cleveland in a competitive advantage. We as a community, as a region, are going to prosper.
Welcome to Frank Talk. I'm your host, Leah Haslage, and I'm here with the Honorable Mayor Frank Jackson. Hi, Mayor.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Pretty good.
Congratulations on your third term, winning the recent election. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are you excited for the new?
Well, it's about to work. So I'm glad I have another 4 years of opportunity to do the work.
As are we. We're excited as well.
Well,
Over the last 8 years, you've done such an amazing job at keeping such a balanced budget. And I read that your financial goal is to create a structural balance. Are you going to be doing anything differently over the next few years from the past?
No, not really. A structural balance is where the amount of money that you spend that year is within the amount of money you raise that year. You see, the amount of money you raise is greater or equal to what you spend. We're not there. We actually have carryover. So we'll carry over money to fill the gap between what it costs us to run the city and what we have money that we will raise that year. There's always a gap. So we'll carry over money to fill that gap. And a structural balance would mean you wouldn't have to do the carryover. And it will take us a while to get there because it does mean that we have to get more revenues, which comes through taxes and fees and things like that. And the better the economy is, and as the economy grows, then you get more revenue. And it also means we have to hold costs down so the costs don't accelerate faster than the revenues coming in. So it's a work in progress, but I would have liked to have done it for next year, but I don't think that will happen. But in the next 4 years, we'll have a structural balance.
So we're on that track.
Oh, yeah. So there's nothing different in what we're doing. We're still trying to maintain costs, hold costs down while able to deliver the quantity and quality of service. And at the same time, we're promoting economic development activities so we can bring our revenue up.
Which our economic development team has been doing such a phenomenal job.
Well, they've been working on it. You know, during the recession, we lost $24 million just in income tax alone. $24 million. We have recovered from that loss as the recession ended and there's been new investment in Cleveland. But as we recovered from that, the state then took some tens of millions of dollars from us in state funding. So we had to recover from that. If it were not for the actions that the state took, we would be structurally balanced now.
Wow. Institutionalizing success is a phrase I've heard you say before.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm not quite sure what that
Well,
means.
it's just like on the structural balance. How do you institutionalize a way of doing things that you're guaranteed an outcome? And how do we institutionalize the way we do things that would better guarantee success for Cleveland? So the question becomes, what is that measure of success?
Right.
One of it is structural balanced budget. Another is quality education. Another one is economic development that has a broader inclusion of Clevelanders, whether they're citizens working on jobs or contracting, companies that do contracting for goods and services or construction where they are part of that. So as we look at community benefits and we look at when we are participating with our business community to help them be profitable, how does Cleveland benefit from it, our companies and our citizens and things like that.
Right. And you touched upon community benefits.
Right.
You signed that agreement earlier this year.
Right.
Can you explain how the community benefits the citizens of Cleveland?
Well, community benefits is really designed to, as I said, when we are having economic development activity, how does the city of Cleveland benefit from it? Through its people and through its businesses. And what it does, it really gives a parameter to say that people, if you're doing a development like the lakefront development or something like that, then how do they contract for construction? Should those be local companies?
Right.
Cleveland companies, regional companies? How do they use a labor force? Are those people who are working on the job Clevelanders or people from the region? How do they procure the material and the goods they need to complete that project? Should they do it with the local supplier network? That keeps the money in the local economy, and as that money stays in our local economy, it better guarantees employment for people who work in companies who are getting contracts for goods and services and construction from that activity. So it turns money over into our local economy that really helps us to maintain and grow our economy, giving us the revenue streams that we need moving towards a structural balance. So all these things come together. Right. They seem to be separate, but they're not. They all come together. And when you institutionalize these things and you make it just the way you do business in the city of Cleveland, the way we deliver service in the city of Cleveland, the way we budget in the city of Cleveland, then we have a better guarantee towards a pathway of success, as opposed to those things just being done because depending on who the mayor is or depending on who the corporate leader is. It should be institutionalized as a way in which we behave as a city and as a community.
And it's so important to you to make sure that the businesses, that we don't hire outside businesses for different things like the Innerbelt Bridge and stuff, that we keep it home.
Well, that was a state project, which meant the state issued those contracts. Now, they have a different approach to life than the city, but many other people who worked on that project and some of the companies that worked on that project were Cleveland-based companies. Now, there are times when you have either a specialty that only a few people can do something, that you would have to hire them, and they may not be local. They may be from another state or even sometimes from other countries. Hospitals have that dilemma because because someone is in the construction business does not allow them to participate in building a hospital or renovating an emergency room, because they have certain requirements that are unique to hospitals because of diseases and ventilation and different systems in place. Okay. So there are specialized companies who do those kind of things. Now, the fortunate thing is when university hospitals did their $1.2 billion of construction, they built the Hoosier Center Hospital out in Beechwood and did the emergency room here in the city of Cleveland, redid that. They brought in companies that now have that experience and now have the ability to say that they have that experience and certification to do hospital construction work. So they build capacity, and that's a community benefit.
That's great. Well, now from Collinwood to Cam's Corner, we've seen so much development with our various neighborhoods. Is there something we can look forward to in 2014 with our neighborhoods in development?
Well, there's always things on in the blueprint. The question is, do you have the money to do all these things? And so, yes, there are things you should look forward to, whether it's towpath things, whether it's extra things done out in Detroit Shoreway area in their arts district. Collinwood has its art district up by Waterloo. Yeah. There are things that are happening in the Slavic Village area. So there'll be a lot of things going on in the neighborhood.
Perfect.
Which is the key, because that's where people live, in neighborhoods. Now, we want to create a downtown neighborhood.
Right, that's been a big...
That really, in order to do that, we have about 13,000 people living downtown. But in order to have a true neighborhood, you need about 25,000. That 25,000 people living downtown will demand certain amenities and goods and services like any neighborhood, and then you'll see those kind of investments happening downtown. The same thing happens in a traditional neighborhood. Where you have people living there, they demand certain amenities of life, and people find that to be investment opportunities. The key is, how do you have local people do and make those investments? Again, that's community benefits.
Very good. Well, now Cleveland has been recognized from Forbes to USA Today. We have been getting so much recognition over the last year for just what a wonderful city we have. How does that make you feel, that we're getting so much recognition?
Well, you know, how I feel, I don't think is relevant sometimes, because they can turn around tomorrow and say we're the worst thing in the world. So to me, and so I don't look for confirmation from external sources in this regard. I stay focused on Cleveland and making Cleveland the best it can be. And I know that in that, there are some things are more challenging than others. Sometimes you fall back, sometimes you move ahead. So it's not a matter of feeling good or bemoaning the situation. I don't have that luxury because I have to continue to do what I do. We have to move on. So we cannot, and I cannot in particular, take the time to celebrate something or to bemoan a situation. Okay. You know, that's that moment, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the world or the beginning of the world. You just move on, and to rely on external confirmation of who you are and what you're about is a very dangerous thing, so I tend not to do that.
Oh, that's a good life lesson right there, actually.
Well, running a city, you know, a city is an organic kind of thing. It has its personality, it has a culture, it has a character. And so if you look at a city is like an individual. And how that individual behaves, what their philosophy of life is, all those kinds, that's part of community benefits, you know, because if we as a community, as a city, look to take care of our own, to provide quality of life to our own, to provide opportunity to access wealth and prosperity of our own, then that defines who we are, And that is part of what a city does. The same thing about neighborhoods. Each neighborhood has their own personality and character. And that's why you can move from this neighborhood to that neighborhood and actually see and feel the difference. The thing is, how do we better guarantee, through the institutionalization of success, that every neighborhood and the people living in that neighborhood have a better quality of life and access and opportunity to prosperity. And these things around education, community benefits, structurally balanced budget, delivery of quality service, all of that is part of it.
Well, speaking of quality of life, Sustainable Cleveland 2019 is a very important initiative you created, right. And this year marked the halfway point for the 10-year plan. How do you think it's coming along so far? It's
coming along. Matter of fact, I just left a meeting of the Stewardship Advisory Council coming here, and we were having that discussion, being midpoint, and just finished coming off the summit, right. I think in September, or whenever it was, September, and wanted to assess and evaluate where are we. And we determined that we still have some ways to go here, that we've done a lot of the things, but again, we can't sit around celebrating those things. Right. And we have some large challenges, but we can't sit around bemoaning that, right? So we have a ways to go, and we're developing a strategy for the next 5 years. And in particular, we're looking at the summit for 2014, and how would it look? What the expectation of it in terms of outcome, those kind of things.
Yeah, because each year is a specific
Yeah.
focus, right?
Well, they developed a resource guide, and the resource guide identifies each year a theme. This year was renewable energy. Last year was local food. Next year will be zero waste. Now, so those things are very good things, but they're just silos. They're things in and of themselves. The key is, how do you pull that together? And create a sustainable Cleveland, not just in terms of the whole concept of green city on the Blue Lake, but how do you do it in terms of a sustainable economy, so that this is the way we do business. Part of the community benefits agreements that we're working on with people is that they agree to have some sustainable building practices. So you build that into all of what you do, so that it just becomes what you do. You don't have to think about it. It's just the way you behave. It becomes part of your personality as a city.
As a city.
As a city.
And you've been doing a lot with waste.
Hopefully as individuals too.
Yes, definitely. Because waste has been, I know we're going into 2014 with that was sustainable, but it's been a huge project this year as well.
Well, it's a continuing project, because we want to do curbside recycling. And we have these bins that I think we're about 65% of the city has these, the blue containers and the gray containers. And we figure in another couple of years, the entire city will have these containers, and the blue containers are for recyclables. Well, we're not getting the level of people, even though they have the blue container, they're not necessarily putting recyclables in it, right? Yeah. And so we're looking at how do we change that behavior and move it into what it's supposed to be, and that is a recycling program. And in doing that, how do we then reduce the amount of tonnage of waste we put in the landfill, which is environmentally friendly, and it costs us less because we don't have to pay that amount for tipping fee. And then the third part that we're looking at doing that will begin to materialize next year is what to do with that waste that is not recyclable. How do we dispose of that in a way that we're not putting it in a landfill? It helps to reduce our costs and creates a more environmentally friendly operation. So it's an ongoing thing, ongoing.
But it's going really well, it seems.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well, but we're working on it.
I know education is one of your top priorities, and recently you were at the laser ribbon cutting for the MC Squared STEM School.
Right.
Are we going to be seeing more of these specialized schools popping up in Cleveland?
Well, that's a unique thing in that the MC Square High School, they have the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and they're in different places. One's at Nela Park, the other's at the Science Museum. What this does at Cleveland State, it gives it a home. I think it might be for the 11th and 12th grade, and it puts it into a campus environment. So now you have 11th, 12th graders in the Cleveland State campus environment, which always tends to have a better academic outcome for the kids involved. So we're engaged in that as part of something that was begun, and now we're continuing. And this is just a phase where we found a home, so they're not roaming around from place to place. They actually have a home now that will be built out on Cleveland State's campus. Now, at the same time, Cleveland State also has was international school, Campus International, and this starts at kindergarten, and each year they add a grade, and hopefully they will be from kindergarten to the 12th grade. I believe they're up to the 5th grade now. And so kids go to the Campus International. They, as part of their course curriculum, they have a class in Chinese, and they it's a good school with a good environment to the point that there are probably 400 or 500 children on the waiting list, and many of those are not children who live in Cleveland. They and their parents live in a suburban community, but they want their children to go to Campus International. The same thing will happen with the STEM.
Right.
And you have John Hay, science and medicine, and early college, and architect and engineer. They too have a demand for those schools that people are looking to put their children in.
So are you looking forward to having more specialized programs then in our Cleveland schools?
Well, yes and no. What we want to do is make what is successful in a few schools be the common thread throughout the entire district. So we would not have just specialized schools, and if you're fortunate to get into those schools, then you get a quality education. It should be like that. It should be that if you go to our schools, whether it's in a specialized school or a traditional school setting, that you should get the quality education, and that you have choices. And those choices could be these specialized schools. Max Hayes is one that they're going to rebuild, Max Hayes, and really create a better and broader opportunity for skill learning in different trades, whether it's the building trades, automotive, machine shops, electronics, technology, all that. So that, again, that's young people should have a choice, because everybody doesn't want to go to college.
Right.
So they may want to be in broadcasting. They may want to do other things that may require a college degree, or it may require just a certificate or associate's degree or some experience. Well, we want to open up all those opportunities to the kids and let them be able to, along with their parents, to pick and choose where they want to go, not just have specialized schools. We want it to be an entire system that functions and produces quality education. With many choices.
Many choices. Well, I think trade is really important. I think it's kind of become lost in the system in a sense.
Well, but the demand is there.
Yes.
When our economy changed from heavy industry to that not being the major part of our economy, and a lot of that went overseas, you found that those machine shop jobs and factory jobs kind of went away. But now they're starting to come back. They're still not that same heavy manufacturing, but they may be advanced manufacturing. They require the same type of skills. I went to Max Hayes. I took machine shop, and I worked in factories. I worked on machines. So it's just opportunities and choices, and there are still job opportunities for people who weld, people who run machines, people who are in the automotive field, people who are construction field, IT. So it's how do we train young people in areas where there are demand for jobs, but also where they have an interest.
I agree. You do such a great job informing your management of service needs. Right. What are you expecting in return, though, when you talk to management about their service needs?
Do their job. That's what I'm expecting. That our bottom line is not profit. We don't operate the city for profit. Our bottom line is service, and we're measured on how well we deliver that service, not just in terms of quantity, but the quality. So when I talk to managers about what our bottom line is deliver a service, my requirement of them is do their job, and that is to manage their people in a way that we get to our bottom line and deliver that service in quantity and quality. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not a for-profit organization. We don't do things to make money. We are a city. Our bottom line is service, and we do what we do to be better able to meet that bottom line, which is deliver quantity and quality service. So that's what they should be doing. Now, the other part of that is that I talk to them particularly around the budget and operation things, so that they know where they fit into this, so that they have a sense that they as individuals or as a group are essential to our success as a city. So it's how they fit into this. So that's the importance of communicating to them so that they have a clear sense as to how it's just like yourself. I'll see you on Channel 20, we're doing the interview, but you have a better sense as to how you fit into the organizational structure of Channel 20 and what your role is in Channel 20 and how your role in doing it well adds to the success of Channel 20. So you have to understand that, and the better you understand that, then the more the more you'll buy in, and the more you'll be engaged in the success of the organization, because its success is your success, and vice versa. And it's the same thing you do with managers.
That's why you make sure you get them all together at one time and
Yeah.
everyone's on the same page.
We have about 8,000 to 8,500 employees. And we probably have, in terms of people in some supervisory capacity, around 600 or so people. So when I meet with them around the budget, that is who I meet with. I meet with those 600 or so people, and we go over the budget. We talk about the structural balance. We talk about revenues and costs and how the importance of keeping costs down, their role in keeping the costs down by being more efficient with what they have, getting more productivity out of their people. How do you do that? And then the whole thing about here are the revenues we have to assist you in order to make that. Here are the tools that we will provide to you to make that happen. So that is how we communicate with them. But the expectation is they will do their job, just like the expectation of me is to do my job.
All right, I have one more question for you. We're at the end of the year, and I know it's a time a lot of people make New Year's resolutions.
Right.
Do you have a New Year's resolution or goal for 2014?
No, I don't break it up like that. As I said, I don't have the luxury of celebrating something or to bemoan something. I don't have anybody's shoulder to cry on or anybody to celebrate with. So so I don't break it up like that. To me, this is continuation. And my goal is, when I'm no longer mayor, to have a city that is better off than when I started, and to have institutionalized a pathway to success, so that regardless of who the mayor is, you have and the people of the city of Cleveland and the businesses of the city of Cleveland have an expectation as to how Cleveland should function. You have an expectation as to how we spend our money and whether we deliver quality service. You will have an expectation in terms of how we educate our children and how well they're educated. You will have an expectation of when there's prosperity and wealth creation as to how you and your family and if you had a business, how they should participate in that, all those things. And that expectation will drive who the next mayor is or who you would choose to have as the next mayor. It shouldn't be personality driven that once this person is off the scene, that everything falls apart. The system should carry an expectation that the people have of it, and it should perform at that level. That's when you have institutionalized a pathway to success.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Mayor
you.
Jackson, for meeting with me today.
Right.
It's been a pleasure.
Well, and this is your first
My
Frank
first
Talk.
Frank Talk.
Well,
I hope I
you
okay.
did well.
Thank you.
We broke you in good today. All right.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Frank Talk.